In today's video, we're taking a look at Scarlet and Violet booster boxes. There's some interesting data that is available. We'll do a deep dive into that as to what booster boxes are most likely to take some jumps in the near future. Now, we just saw the Sword and Shield era pretty much across the board take massive jumps. And comparatively, when you start to look at Sword and Shield being up here and Scarlet Violet being down here, a lot of people are saying, well, Scarlet and Violet is starting to look real good price-wise. And some of those sets are starting to get pretty old when it comes to Scarlet and Violet. So there's a few that are a lot less likely to get reprinted. So we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. And we're just going to jump straight into it. Now, starting off with Obsidian Flames, of all boxes. Now, this box actually, over the past 3 months, has had a pretty big jump in price. It's actually not the biggest jump in price that we've seen. It's the second biggest jump. But there is some information that we can garner from this. Now, we are looking at TCG Player if you're not familiar. Now, there's a few reasons why I like TCG Player to look at. Now, it's not the end-all be-all when it comes to pricing, but there's a lot of really great data points that you get just from looking at this page besides the charts. But the charts are very helpful. I do like visualizing the price movement. It does help me kind of just gauge where things are at. So for Obsidian Flames, this is the third set that was released, so it is definitely much older, and you can see a big uptick in price recently, almost 30% just in the past 3 months. But over here is where we're going to be getting most of our information for this video. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit about supply and demand, because that obviously plays a factor in anything like this. And they have some great numbers right here. You can see how many boxes are listed. So as far as supply, and then sales, you can see what the demand has been. And listed median price is an interesting, while this is not a guaranteed thing, it just is an interesting number to look at. So as far as Obsidian Flames, jumping up to $240, this is one of those sets that when you look at it overall, it's not at my top of sets that's going to go crazy, just because, not that it's not a great set, it actually is a pretty decent set with actually a lot of really stunning arts. But I do think that this set suffered a little bit from Charizard fatigue. And I don't know how much that's playing a factor, but it is obviously moving up despite that, right? It's seeing some pretty massive gains more recently. And you can see a big uptick. Part of this happened on that TCG Player sale date of May 16th. So a lot of those boxes were sold then, but the numbers that we're going to want to compare is the quantity and median price mostly. So I think that while this box now being one of the more expensive boxes of the era, we'll come back to that in a second. I think there are other boxes that have better growth potential moving forward. So Obsidian Flames is not one of my few choices for the because it already had some pretty big growth here. We'll take a look at some of those other boxes, but just worth noting, just to set a baseline for where Obsidian Flames is at. Okay, so just keep in mind that 240. Then this is actually the box that had the most growth over the past 3 months, Paldea Evolved. Now this one is much more expensive. You can see we're just under $300 for Paldea Evolved. This is the second set to come out, so even older than Obsidian Flames. This set is a much more complete set. It's very deep when it comes to illustration rares, special illustration rares. You have the Magikarp Chase card, just better, much better set overall. And this, you can see right here, we're roughly just under 300, over 200 boxes available. So comparatively, just a few more boxes available. So when it comes to supply, there is a decent amount of Paldea available, and the listed median price is kind of just how people have their boxes listed, right? So you can kind of look at it as where they're thinking, where the sellers are thinking the prices are going to go, where they're willing to let this price go. Now, this is not a guaranteed thing, but it can be an indicator, kind of a gauge, right? Now, Paldea Evolved is one of those ones where, kind of like Obsidian Flames, it has seen a lot of growth recently. I still genuinely believe that this is still one of those sets long term that will perform extremely well, even though, you know, it's up right now. So if you're on a long term plan for your booster boxes. I do like Paldea Evolve still as a long-term play, even though it is around the $300 mark. So this, while it's not maybe one of my top choices for growth, I do like Paldea a lot moving forward. Once again, more of a long-term. Now, when it comes to boxes that have more short-term potential, there's about 3 or 4 that kind of stand out, and you'll see where some of these things differ a little bit. Paradox Rift is one of those sets that obviously has had some pretty good growth, 20% in the past 3 months. It was $173 back here in February, and now we're at just over 200. But you can see the listed median price is around 240. So that would indicate that this box is going to continue to rise. You know, we don't exactly know how fast, but what you start to see, and something that I think maybe would be helpful for you guys to just keep an eye out when you're on TCG Player, is the quantity available on this set currently. And obviously these can change day to day, right? So keep that in mind as well. But the supply on this set is lower, right? Around 150 boxes is kind of what we're seeing. Now, just because there's lower supply on a set like this, doesn't mean it's going to move, because there obviously has to be demand, right? So those things do work in tandem. I do think that, as far as Scarlet and Violet sets overall, there's nothing that's really like a true sleeper anymore, because there's so much attention and so many content creators and so much being talked about now, right? There's not like this dark corner of Scarlet and Violet that's like people don't know about, right? So, but Paradox Rift does fall into this category of boxes that I do think will continue to have a good leg up, just indicated off of the supply and the listed median price. And like I said, this is not a guaranteed, just because you have a lower supply with the higher median. That's not a guarantee. It's just an indicator that I kind of look at. I do like Paradox Rift as a deep set that has a lot of great illustration rares. I still don't think it's probably set up to be the best of what's currently available, but I do like it. It is in there, up there on my list. Then we'll jump over to Temporal Forces is actually looking really good as far as the numbers go. So you can see it is up 18%. So it has been growing, not as much as some of the other sets, but you'll see even lower supply here. 130 boxes currently listed on TCG Player. So that's an important, even lower supply with a higher listed median price. So currently boxes are at 210, listed median is at 248. And if you go like lowest listed right now are pretty much around, there's 2 at 215 when you include shipping, and then they go up from 220 on up. So I think Temporal Forces is another one of those. Maybe it's set up a little bit better. I think maybe I have a little bit of collector bias when it comes to Paradox Rift. For whatever reason, I like that set a little bit more. But I think a lot of the discourse that I hear and see is maybe that people prefer Temporal Forces. So if you want to go off of that, between Paradox and Temporal, maybe Temporal is going to be the better set of the two moving forward. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you got to take your biases out when possible. So I might be a little Paradox biased just because for whatever reason that set calls to me a little bit more as a collector. And, sometimes I can't take, it's hard to separate the collector and like the investor side of you, right? So as far as booster boxes moving up, I think Temporal is set to be a very decent set moving forward. And I think that these numbers do kind of indicate that. But as we move forward, this set really is surprising me, is Stellar Crown. Now, Stellar Crown's already at 220 a box. You can see listed median. Looks like, it kind of wants to go to around 250 with a little bit lower supply, 124 boxes. Now, Stellar Crown is a set that I like. I do think it has some great illustration rares. Obviously, Squirtle and Bulbasaur, top tier illustration rares. But, maybe not as strong or as deep of a set, if I'm being completely honest, as Temporal or Paradox. But supply and demand. So even if the supply is lower, I'm not sure currently what the demand for Stellar Crown is. Maybe it's a little bit lower, but you can still see that it's obviously performing pretty well, being at this 220 mark comparatively. Although, you know, a lot of these boxes are fairly close in price, right? It's not like it's that far ahead of the Paradox here, and it's not that far ahead of Temporal. And the supply obviously very close between Temporal and Stellar. So once again, this can change day to day as far as the supply numbers and stuff go. And then you have a set like Scarlet and Violet Base, which is similarly, you know, you look at this set. This is a set that I like a lot. I think this is a very, very strong base set. Not as much growth, you know, still 15%. Obviously, shooting up over $200 is really great growth. 211, most recent sale at 218. And this is one where you start to look at median prices on most of these boxes ending up kind of being around 240, 250, right? Depending. And that's kind of what we're seeing. But you see the supply being much higher for Scarlet and Violet base. Now, that doesn't mean that SV base can't perform well, but there's a higher supply here. So just keep in mind that that's when you start to look at these other sets. You go, oh, well, maybe Paradox, Temporal are kind of your front runners with a little bit of Stellar Crown, and then for more expensive, Paldea Evolved is kind of, you know, where I'm looking at. Regardless of price, like I said, Paldea is looking real strong moving forward. So SV base, still a set I like. It just might take a bit more time to see more jumps just due to the supply. If we look at, we'll have to filter this out because all these annoying listings. If we filter this out right here, we can see lowest listeds are around 218, which does match the most recent sale. So it is continuing to run up, and it will be around 220 in a few sales. So just give it some more time, and the price will have moved there. So these are kind of the lowest price boxes currently, except for Journey Together, but we'll obviously get to that one in a second. And then you have Twilight Masquerade. Now, Twilight Masquerade is a set that obviously, before Surging Sparks, this was the set that really started to put things in motion. As far as the booster box price was more expensive, but specifically having an expensive chase card in this era with the Greninja. Now, this box currently is not up very much in the past 3 months. It's up 2%. But it has climbed more recently. If we bump over here to the 1 month, up almost 10% in the past month, going from 207 up to around 240. So similar price jump between current market and the listed median, looking to jump up around $40, but supply a little bit higher on Twilight Masquerade. This is a set that probably will perform well long term as well. I think it's going to be a very popular set just because of the Greninja alone. But when it comes to, you just start to look at where the supply is at, that's where you go, well, you know, potentially there could be more movement sooner on some of those lower supply sets. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody can't come in and just because like, oh, you know, maybe Paradox Rift is starting to move and somebody just lists 200 boxes. Like, you never know. So obviously Paradox Rift was available for a long time at a very affordable price. You know, not that long ago. So just keep in mind with that as well. So Twilight already up there as well, but still definitely a good set long term. And then, you know, you start to get in much higher supply sets. Surging Sparks is one that's been hit with price, and you can see, like, look at the supply. The supply, there's tons of these boxes out there right now comparatively. 912 boxes listed on TCG, while it's still holding up in the 220s, right? And lowest listed actually currently around 230 for Surging Sparks. And you can see a big uptick in sales for the TCG player sale as well, May 16th. But box price is down now. Surging Sparks is a set that obviously I do think will perform very well long term, but obviously, you know, being reprinted, bringing the price from 260 down into the 220s, and you have a much higher supply to eat through. However, I would say with this set, when it comes to supply and demand, I do think that a lot of people really like Surging Sparks, so the demand is higher. So just because you have high supply doesn't mean that it can't get eaten through. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a give and take with supply and demand. There's a lot to factor in, But, you know, it's just one of those things that I really like about the way TCG Player just displays a few of these things. And, you know, back to the median price for a second. The listed median price is at $280. So, you know, the sellers are essentially whoever has these listings, these 117 sellers. 117 sellers are listing 912 boxes. You know, they're essentially saying that they won't sell a lot of them until the prices go up. So they're willing to sit on them, or they just think the price is going to go up. You see what I'm saying? So a little bit of an indicator, obviously, that there's still some good strength around Surging Sparks. It just got hit with like big supply. And then you have another set like Journey Together, which I would say, for me, not the strongest set around, a little bit more mid, in my opinion. But look at the quantity. This is where you start to get like, well, almost 1,500 boxes on TCG Player. Okay. So, and it's a brand new set, so that makes sense, right? But the boxes have been holding over that $200 mark, which is very good. Obviously, the market extremely bullish, considering MSRP is at 160. So just because there's a high supply, you know, it hasn't really dipped down under that $200 mark. Now, listed median price is still up, so these boxes can move up to around the 220 mark. Which is just something to keep an eye on. We'll have to eat through supply before Journey Together maybe starts to move up. But yeah, so it's like I wouldn't be picking up Journey Together right now. Currently, if you're looking for quicker pickups, it's a newer set. I think you're better off between Paldea, Paradox, Temporal, and even Stellar Crown. You know, because like right now, we'll jump back for a second. Journey Together, 205. Paradox 211. I'm gonna go Paradox 211, right? I think it has a much better potential, lower supply. Temporal at 210. Temporal at 210. Even Stellar Crown at 220. A little bit more for an older set. So that's kind of where we're at as far as Journey Together goes. Newer set, very high supply, and then I think the demand for this set is about to wane off to a certain extent. Destin Rivals comes out this upcoming week. So, you know, I don't know how many people are going to just kind of forget about Journey Together and move on to Destin Rivals, but with Destin Rivals being expensive, you know, that might turn people off. People might go back to the more affordable boxes. So another factor to consider. And then lastly, you know, this set obviously is not released, but we can see Destin Rivals has been holding around 260 for the majority of the month. Hasn't really dipped below that. That's been the lowest price we've seen. Now, in theory, this should drop a little bit upon the actual release when other sellers can list on release day. So just keep in mind, I don't know how much it's going to drop because I do think this is going to be a high demand set. This is a set I'm personally very excited for. But obviously, you've seen what can happen with a new set. I'm not saying that Destin Rivals, I think Journey Together to Destin Rivals, I think Destin Rivals is quite a few leagues higher, in my opinion. But, you know, obviously high supply here. Listed median price is the same as the market price, give or take. So all these people are pricing their boxes the same. So currently, this price is not moving. The only way this price moves, like I said, is on release day. If people start undercutting and more sellers can list. So that will play a factor on release day when we get there, because right now not everybody on TCG Player can list. So obviously we're not really looking too much more speculatively at Destin Rivals. I just thought it was worth taking note of these numbers. So in summary, you know, I like Paldea a lot, even though it's more expensive. Once again, my mindset when it comes to these boxes is 5 to 10 years down the road. That's you know, most of what I do when it comes to buying booster boxes. If you want to check out, like, for example, you're not going to see me listing and selling sealed right now booster boxes. You can check my eBay. The link's in the description if you want. I'm not selling these right now. I'm on a longer time frame. I'm going to hold longer, right? I'm not doing quick or shorter flips. Now, that's not to be said that you can't do that, right? But if I'm buying booster boxes, I'm looking to hold them more long term. But Paldea, Paradox, and Temporal looking less and less likely to get reprints because a little bit of due to their age and lower supply. I think there's more room to run. I like Paradox and Temporal a lot, just because they're a bit more affordable. You can get a few more boxes of these, but then I do like Paldea as well, as these are my top 3 choices for what we have currently. But Scarlet and Violet base is another one that just may take more time, but I still think will continue to perform well. It might lag behind the other sets, but it's still a really great base set. And then you have some of your other like top performing sets, like Surging Sparks will do well long term, and Twilight as well, but they're already up a little bit. And you know, Surging, the more Surging falls, the more interesting that this becomes to pick up more boxes. But keep in mind, for me, I pre-ordered you know, Surging Sparks before, when it was like around 100 a box. So you know, that's why at this price point I'm not really looking to pick up any more, because I already have secured some around 100, just because I happened to pre-order before the prices went up. So hopefully this video was helpful when it comes to just kind of identifying what boxes are kind of set to move and kind of where things are at. Like I said earlier, I do think that people, I use the carousel analogy a lot. If you watch someone on the carousel, you can only watch them so far until they go out of view. And I kind of view that like Sword and Shield. We just watched all of the sets for the most part, and I still think there's tons of room on Sword and Shield in the future, right? I'm bullish on Sword and Shield, but it gets to a point where it gets so expensive, it goes out of sight, and then you go, okay, well, actually, Scarlet and Violet coming around the corner, and you're like, oh, Scarlet and Violet stuff, might be time to get that before that gets too expensive. So that's kind of my mindset when it comes to these sets. Hopefully this video was helpful. Now, not everyone's going to watch the end of the video, right? Nothing in this video is gospel per se, right? Take everything with a grain of salt, watch other people, form your own opinions. I'm not saying any of this is a guarantee. I'm just saying there are some indicators as far as supply and demand, right? You can kind of get a feel for what's in demand. And as far as supply, you can see what TCG Player has. Now, that's not the end all be all. Between that and then listed medium price, but it does kind of help you gauge the market. So, and like I said, I have a bias towards Paradox that I acknowledged. So maybe you go with Temporal between the two and kind of see what I'm saying. And, you know, like maybe even if you have to start to think, if you're thinking long-term as well, like just because maybe Stellar Crown's not quite as popular, but maybe it never gets reprinted, because you know, Surging and all these other sets and Prismatic and gets all the reprints moving forward, and some sets they can't reprint all of the sets to to bring all these prices down moving forward. So you know, there's going to be sets that get overlooked, and so that can create scarcity where it's like, well, yeah, Stellar Crown wasn't maybe as good of a set, but you know, it didn't really get printed that much, or you know, you insert your set here. So anyways, that's kind of just a little bit of a oversight of how I've been currently looking at Scarlet and Violet. I still like I said, I still like Sword and Shield a lot, even at the prices that they're at, because once again, my mindset is 5 to 10 years down the road for Sword and Shield, right? So I like Sword and Shield a lot, but I also like Scarlet and Violet. And you know, obviously not everyone wants to spend $400, $500, $800 per booster box. I'd rather get more in the $200 range, get more boxes. So that's totally fine. So that's kind of why I wanted to make this video, because I think stuff has moved, and now we're a little bit in a lull right before Destin Rivals as far as other sets. So and a lot of eyes are about to go to Destin Rivals this week. So that's all I have for you guys in this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, there are affiliate links down below that you can use for free at no additional cost to you. I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, enter the giveaway. Should be popping up here. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, it was never a phase.